As you come in, please hit the like button. It's really appreciated. And for the people who wondering why I have on a Lakers hat, well, it's the simple fact that the Lakers have won the same amount of playoff games as the Brooklyn Nets. Only difference is LeBron and them are have been home. They never even made the playoffs. But as you can see, Snuggles and Kyrie were basically on vacation after the first couple of games also. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. This was a very bad showing. 116 to 112. The net season comes to an abrupt end. Four straight um, after game one. And you know what? Game two and game three, it was close in the first half. In fact, the Nets had a lead then. The Nets haven't had a lead in any of the games in Brooklyn, and that's an absolute disgrace. The Boston Celtics actually played their best ball game three. I mean, and the Nets had in game four, especially when Jason Tatum fouled out with 2 minutes, and I believe it was 2:18 left in the game, and Tatum had 28, but they failed to take advantage of that, and that is why the Boston Celtics are going on, and the Brooklyn Nets are going home. I mean, it was just an absolute disgrace. Snuggles play. I mean, excuse me, Kevin Durant played well, even though 15, excuse me, yeah, 20 of his 33 points actually came in the first half. Second half, he was not as aggressive. Kyrie Irving actually played pretty decent, but he wasn't aggressive enough. He was very passive, especially in the first half. In the second half, he played a lot better, but it was much too little, too late. Um, Actually, the best player, the most consistent player for Brooklyn was actually Bruce Brown, and he did not play well tonight. He had a rare off game tonight. Um, Seth Curry played decent, but he was in foul trouble. I mean, ironically, Bruce Brown had 18. He averaged 18 in this series. Kevin Durant averaged 22 and Kyrie 21 and a half. But it just wasn't enough. I mean, the problem is Blake Griffin played decent when he had minutes to play, but Andre Drummond gave you nothing. Nick Claxton was such a liability at the foul line and on the offensive end. What Brooklyn's going to have to do, they have to get a strong rebounder and shot blocker to man the middle. That will help them because their defense is just abysmal. Now, unfortunately, I don't know how that will help their perimeter defense, but their interior defense is so bad, it's ridiculous. And they're going to have to work from the outside in as far as their defense goes because they really have no true shot blocker outside of Claxton. Andre Drummond is a shell of himself. I mean, he barely is the rebounder that he once was. And he cannot move laterally enough to guard any big man. And Al Horford he just took the Nets to school. It was ridiculous. Now, Tatum is a superstar. So I'm not shocked that they have problems with Jason Tatum. I mean, we have seen him come into his own literally right before our eyes. And he's been playing at this high level for at least 3 years, especially in the postseason. Jaylen Brown has also, he knows what his role is. See, that's the difference also in these teams. I mean, outside of Kyrie and KD, there's no third scorer anymore, even though Bruce Brown actually played well. But you can't expect him to be that guy night in and night out. and they have no defense whatsoever. They have actually mirrored their coach, who, let's face it, if they bring back Steve Nash, they're bigger fools than you think. Because, and you know what? I'm gonna be fair. The GM needs to take a walk too. Sean Marks put this team together, and he put it together really poorly. So if you want to say that Sean Marks and Steve Nash need to walk the plank, I have absolutely no problem with that. Both of those guys need to go. If you want to say you want to trade Kyrie, maybe you can get a first-round pick for him. I understand that as well, but they're going to need to really bulk up and toughen up on the defensive end. Kyrie obviously is good enough to be the second best player on the team, but I just don't think the dynamics of this team are good enough to have a Kyrie right now. And I think Kyrie almost brings more problems than solutions. And listen, it's easy to make Kyrie and obviously Snuggles the scapegoats, but it's obviously not just them. I mean, the way this team was put together was poor. James Harden helped ruin this team as well. Listen, when you cannot get damaged goods, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, Ben Simmons hasn't even played a game. I don't think he'll be ready next season. I don't think this guy wants to play basketball. I think the guy has mentally checked out. He's almost like Markelle Fultz was. And I know Philly fans remember him. I tell you what, as bad as this was for the Brooklyn Nets, what's going on in Philadelphia could be almost as bad, if not worse, because the Toronto Raptors just blew them out. And I mean blew them up and down the court. And now they're going back to Toronto. I mean, and let's face it, they were up 3-0. They failed in 2 closeouts. Now they're going back to Toronto. If they ever bring it back to Philadelphia for Game 7, I mean, you are looking at Joel Embiid and obviously Doc Rivers in a different light. We already know how poor James Harden has been in the postseason. And let's face it, his legacy will take yet another ding. But I tell you what, as bad as the Brooklyn Nets have been, and let's face it, I don't know what's worse, getting swept or losing I believe, and I'm not absolving the Brooklyn Nets because that was abysmal. You got to win at least one game. You cannot have a 3-0 lead like Philadelphia and end up losing the series. That has never happened in NBA history. But Doc Rivers has shown that he can blow leads. No one blows leads quite like Doc Rivers. And if Doc Rivers blows this lead, let me tell you, that almost takes away from the championship that he won with the Boston Celtics. And that was a ready-made team with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. And in fact, you can make a case that they should have won more than the one championship that they did. But right now, this is all about the Brooklyn Nets. And the Brooklyn Nets getting steamrolled by the young Boston Celtics. Listen, that cannot happen when you have a so-called super team who was at one time being called, they're the most explosive scorers they've ever seen on one team. Well, that's an absolute joke. Well, it doesn't mean anything if you can't do anything on the defensive end. So this has been a disgusting display of basketball all season long by the Brooklyn Nets. And if I were to, listen, my bottom 3 to get rid of, you know what, I'm going to make it 4. The 4 culprits are you have to try and get something for Kyrie. There's too much money. KD actually has more trade value, but I don't know if Kevin Durant is going to demand a trade. I wouldn't be shocked if he did. If he did, I would accommodate it because the Nets have to actually start over. The way this team is currently constructed, they will never win a championship. They're not even feared anymore. So if they wanted to just start from the ground up, I absolutely have no problem with that. This experiment has definitely failed, and it's time to me, it's time to cut bait and just start over, start the rebuilding process. And they have to start it over with a new GM, a new coach, and probably just a fresh slate. Listen, if KD doesn't want to go anywhere, Kyrie has to go, because he's still living off of that big shot that he made in Cleveland. And the sad part is I actually like Kyrie, but I just don't think he fits the dynamics in Brooklyn anymore. I just don't think he does. So to me, you get rid of the GM, you get rid of Steve Nash, the coach, and you know what? You get what you can get for Kyrie Irving. I don't know how much you can get for him. Now, if KD wants to walk, you know what? You accommodate him. You get as many first-round picks. You have to bring a star back as well. But you get a first-round or two pick. You have to start from scratch if you're the Brooklyn Nets right now. Because if you're going to make the first round and get bounced and get swept, it's just not worth it. You might as well just be the New York Knicks and the team that I'm wearing right now, the LA Lakers, because they won the same amount of playoff games. Again, as you see, make sure to hit the like button on the way out. Thank you so much for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. Uncle Claude signing out. Take care. Be safe, everybody. Make sure to take the necessary precautions. COVID is still around. And you know what? It looks like just like the Brooklyn Nets, my basketball season's pretty much over. But I will be still in tune I'll just be covering the rest of the NBA playoffs. Right now, Dallas is blowing Utah away. I mean, that's another team that they're going to need to overhaul, break it up. If you want to trade Kyrie for Donovan Mitchell, you go ahead and do that, because that team is cooked. And I tell you what, if you're Brooklyn, don't bring no Quinn Snyder as coach of the Brooklyn Nets, because that's going to be a failure too. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Take care, everybody. Stay safe, and God bless.